Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really fundamental. It touches everyone. Love, connection, attraction. But we're going beyond, the usual ideas, magic, fate, that kind of thing.
Right. We've been looking at some material that honestly presents quite a stark warning.
A warning. How so?
It argues that your basic understanding of relationships, maybe your whole love life, could be at risk if you're ignoring the psychology underneath it all.
Okay, psychology, not just chemistry.
Exactly. The material insists that love isn't just some random spark. It's deeply tied to emotional patterns. Patterns formed way back early in life, usually called attachment styles.
Attachment styles. Okay, I've heard of those.
And the argument is powerful. The material basically says you have to understand these. It's not optional if you want healthy connections.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack that idea, this warning. Understand these critical patterns.
And highlight the dangers the material points out if you stay unaware.
Okay, let's unpack this warning then. Let's see what these sources reveal about how we connect, why we often stumble.
And crucially, what you absolutely need to know before maybe it feels too late, or you repeat the same mistakes.
Right, so the core warning, love isn't magic, it's psychology. That's the headline.
Pretty much. The material jumps right in with a provocative claim. You've basically been lied to if you think love is just fate or magic.
Lied to. Strong words.
It is. It talks about a seductive power everyone has, but most people are passive, just waiting, hoping.
While others,
it claims, master it. And how? By understanding the psychology involved.
Okay, but seduction, mastering it, that sounds a bit manipulative.
It addresses that head on. It insists this isn't about manipulation. It defines seduction here as really gaining insight, understanding how other people feel.
Understanding what makes them drop their guard.
Exactly. And then responding in a way that, gently pulls them in, creates a real connection based on understanding their inner world.
And the warning is?
The stark warning is, fail to grasp this emotional insight, and people will just keep slipping through your fingers. You'll be left wondering why. Confused.
And it gets even more specific, right? About a major mistake.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting and where the material issues a major, major warning. It says the most dangerous mistake is focusing only on yourself.
Only on yourself. But isn't that what we usually do? Worry about how we feel, how we're coming across.
That's exactly the trap it points out. The skilled approach, the one that supposedly works according to this material, flips it. Focus entirely on the other person.
Their world, their fears, their longings.
Precisely, their inner landscape. And again, it stresses this isn't about mind games. It's presented as high-level emotional intelligence, getting out of your own head.
And the material connects this directly to attachment style.
Absolutely. It states it very clearly. If you want real influence, real connection in love, you must study human psychology. And attachment styles are presented as the ground floor, the starting point.
And if you ignore this,
the warning is clear. Your attempts at closeness, even if you have the best intentions, are likely to backfire. You'll misread cues, you'll push when you should pull, or vice versa.
Because you don't understand their underlying emotional operating system, so to speak.
You got it. You're speaking the wrong emotional language.
Okay, so let's get into these attachment styles. The material frames them as patterns that will make or break your love life. That's quite a claim.
It is, and the reasoning follows from what we just discussed. People aren't blank slates emotionally. They're shaped by these patterns, forged in childhood.
So ignoring this means?
It means you're likely attracting the same dynamics, the same problems, again and again, because you don't recognize the pattern in yourself or others.
Understanding these styles is like learning the blueprint.
Exactly. The blueprint for building love, as the material puts it. Without that blueprint, the warning is really vivid. You'll keep building castles on sand and watching them fall.
Castles on sand, that's a powerful image. Okay, let's break down the first style according to the material. Secure attachment.
Right. Secure. These individuals, the material suggests, grew up basically trusting love, expecting honesty. Their caregivers were generally reliable, responsive.
So they're not coming into relationships expecting games or drama.
Not typically, no. They value genuine connection. They're pretty straightforward.
And the warning or instruction here? If you meet someone like this.
It's almost counterintuitive in today's dating world, maybe. The warning is, don't ruin it by trying too hard. Forget the flashy tactics. Forget playing hard to get.
So what do you do? How do you connect?
According to the source, just be emotionally present. Be kind, stable, sincere. Let your interests come from genuine care, not neediness or trying to provoke a reaction.
Be real, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Authenticity and consistency.
And the consequence. The danger of ignoring this advice with a secure person.
This is critical. If you are inconsistent, if you're vague, emotionally distant, play games, they won't chase. That's the key warning.
They won't chase. Why not?
Because they see that inconsistency for what it is. A sign that you're not capable of or interested in the healthy, stable connection they value. They know their worth.
So they don't get drawn into the anxiety loop like some other styles might.
Exactly. The material is stark. They will simply walk away, not out of spite, but because they recognize incompatibility. You'll lose them by failing to show up authentically.
Wow. Okay. That really flips the script on some common dating advice.
It certainly does. Now let's move to the next one. Anxious attachment.
Anxious. The material describes these individuals as sometimes wounded.
Yes, that's the term used. Wounded by inconsistent care in the past. Love was there sometimes, maybe intensely, but then it was withdrawn or unreliable.
So they learn that love is wonderful, but it might disappear at any moment.
Precisely. This creates a core fear of abandonment alongside a deep craving for closeness, which can come across as, well, intense, maybe overthinking things, looking for constant reassurance.
And the warning here is pretty dramatic. Mess this up and you'll trigger a storm.
Yeah, the material doesn't mince words. It says the absolute worst thing you can do is play games. Pulling away to seem mysterious, being inconsistent, that doesn't create attraction.
It triggers their deepest fear.
Exactly. It terrifies them. It confirms their fear that connection is unstable and likely to vanish.
So the way to connect, according to the sources,
It's the total opposite of game playing. Show up. Be clear. Respond reliably. Reassure them, not just with words, but consistently with your actions.
you have to actively build safety, day by day.
That's the message. Prove they are safe with you. Prove the connection is stable.
And if you handle it well,
The potential reward highlighted is deep, deep loyalty and love. Once they feel secure, that bond can be incredibly strong.
but the consequence of getting it wrong, dismissing their sensitivity, being inconsistent.
It's significant. The material says they might implode, get overwhelmed by anxiety, or they might just walk away completely, abruptly.
And this isn't weakness.
No, it's framed as a survival strategy. A learned defense against anticipated pain or abandonment based on past experiences. You failed to provide that core need.
Okay.
Safety.
Understood. Okay, that brings us to the third style, avoidant attachment.
Avoidant. Now, these individuals, according to the material, often learned early on that needing others, showing vulnerability, maybe led to disappointment or dismissal, or maybe intrusion.
So they learned it's safer to rely only on themselves.
Pretty much. Fierce self-sufficiency becomes the strategy. Independence is valued above almost everything.
Do they still want love?
Often, yes. Deep down, they might crave closeness. But the fear of dependence, of being smothered or controlled, is often even stronger. It's a conflict.
They're described as guarded, right? Not necessarily cold.
Exactly. Guarded is a better word. And the warning for connecting with them is very direct. Push too hard, and you'll be shut out forever.
So no rushing things,
Yeah.
no demanding vulnerability.
Absolutely not. You can't force intimacy. You can't pressure them to open up on your schedule. The material is clear. Smother them, cross their boundaries, and they will shut down. Fast.
So what is the approach then?
Respect. Respect for their space, their autonomy. Give them room to breathe. Be consistent, be reliable, show you're dependable without being intrusive.
Let them choose to open up.
That's the key. Let them choose. That builds the very specific kind of trust they need, trust that you won't engulf them.
And if you manage that, if they feel safe enough,
Then the material suggests their loyalty can be incredibly deep. Once they let you in past those defenses, it means something significant.
but the consequence of ignoring this, crossing those boundaries,
It's presented as a severe risk. The material states they might just vanish without a trace. Poof, gone.
vanish. Why so suddenly?
It's their learned defense mechanism.
Yeah.
When they feel their autonomy is threatened, withdrawal, often complete withdrawal, is their way of protecting themselves from perceived engulfment or the pain they associate with reliance.
That's abrupt. A clear warning there. Which leads us to the fourth style, the one described as the most volatile, most complex, and most dangerous. Disorganized attachment.
Yes, disorganized. And the material links this directly to early experiences of trauma, specifically situations where the person meant to be a source of safety, the caregiver, was also a source of fear.
A comforter and the threat.
Exactly. Imagine how confusing that is for a child. Love and fear become tangled together in a really painful knot.
So as adults, how does that play out?
It leads to what the material calls emotional whiplash, a desperate yearning for connection, but then intense panic and pushing away when closeness actually happens. It's constant internal, come here, go away.
Their behavior can seem erratic, maybe even manipulative.
It can definitely look that way from the outside, wild swings. But the material emphasizes it's not usually intentional manipulation. It's driven by deep, underlying, unresolved fear, pure terror, essentially.
And the warning for anyone involved with someone showing these patterns, it's serious. This love style can break you unless you handle it with care.
It really underscores the potential cost. The material doesn't sugarcoat it. If you're drawn into this dynamic, you need immense internal resources. You need to be exceptionally calm, very stable emotionally.
And unshakably compassionate was the phrase used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have to try, and it's incredibly hard not to take the chaotic behavior personally. To understand it stems from fear, not malice.
The goal being, to show them love doesn't have to hurt.
That's the ideal, yes. Through your own stability, you model a different possibility, but, and this is absolutely crucial.
The warning for you, the partner.
Yes, the material issues a critical warning directly to you. If you are not deeply grounded in your own self-worth, if your own emotional stability isn't rock solid, this dynamic can destroy you.
Destroy you. That's incredibly strong language.
It reflects the potential reality, the constant push-pull, the emotional turbulence. It can be incredibly destabilizing if you don't have strong internal anchors.
So how does the material advise navigating this if someone chooses to stay?
With extreme caution and self-awareness, you must set clear, firm boundaries. You must prioritize protecting your own emotional well-being, your own peace.
And know when to step back.
Absolutely. You have to be honest with yourself about the impact it's having. Knowing when the chaos is too much, when stepping away, even if it's painful, is necessary for your own survival, that's not failure, it's self-preservation.
The material basically says it's only noble to love someone through this if you don't lose yourself doing it.
Precisely. The warning isn't just about the difficulty, it's about the very real potential for your own emotional destruction if you're not careful, if you don't protect yourself.
Okay, so we've gone through the 4 styles and the specific warnings attached to each, bringing it all back. The material seems to circle back to that initial premise, doesn't it?
It really does. It hammers home the point. The biggest myth is that love should just happen. Understanding these emotional patterns, these attachment styles, isn't just helpful, it's presented as absolutely essential.
And that idea of seduction comes back too.
Yeah.
Not as manipulation,
But as deep understanding. Real connection, the material argues, comes from studying the inner workings of the other person, recognizing their attachment-based needs and speaking to them, subtly, genuinely.
So the true approach isn't about charm or impressing someone.
No, it's about creating emotional safety.
Being
observant, being attuned. Making the other person feel truly seen, deeply understood. That's described as the magnetic force.
That feeling of, wow, this person really gets me.
Exactly. That's the core of the connection it describes.
So the final instruction, the final piece of advice from this material is?
It's a direct challenge. If you want to be irresistible in a way that leads to real, meaningful connection, stop chasing attention. Stop focusing only on yourself.
Instead.
Study emotion. Learn these attachment styles, yours and theirs. And then craft your approach. Not to control, not just to impress.
But to connect, to understand, to build that crucial emotional safety.
Because, and this seems to be the ultimate message from the material we explored, love isn't just found, it's not fate, it's something that has to be intentionally built.
And the underlying constant warning throughout all of this is, if you don't learn the blueprint, if you ignore these attachment dynamics,
you're likely setting yourself up for failure. You'll keep building those castles on sand.
And the material is pretty blunt about the outcome.
Very blunt, watching them fall again and again. It's presented almost as an inevitability if you lack this understanding.
So wrapping this up, what's the essential takeaway from this deep dive? The material offers a really potent, almost, well, alarming caution, doesn't it?
It really does. Operating in relationships without being aware of these fundamental emotional blueprints, these attachment styles, leaves you vulnerable. Vulnerable to misunderstanding, repeated patterns of heartbreak, failed connections.
It fundamentally challenges that passive idea of love just happening to you.
Completely. It positions deep connection as an active process, something requiring insight, awareness, and, frankly, the willingness to learn the specific emotional language needed to build something solid.
So this deep dive leaves us, and maybe you listening, with a pretty challenging thought to chew on. If love isn't primarily found, but intentionally built,
Yeah.
built on understanding these emotional architectures,
Then the question becomes,
are you learning the right principles? Are you paying attention to the blueprint? Or are you, maybe without even realizing it, just continuing to build those castles on sand?
it's a heavy question, but based on the material, a crucial one to ask yourself, definitely something worth reflecting on.